just wondered whether you could say something about the difference, or whether if there is a difference between Prana and Shakti, and perhaps also Kundalini, how Kundalini connects with those two words.
Anything else?
Yes, I have a question. In Emma Young's book on the legend of Holy Grail, it says that the Grail is received into heaven. That is, it's absorbed into the unconscious. So, if heaven is the unconscious, is hell the conscious?
Shakti is the universal power, the primal energy of the universe, from which derives everything in nature. The one life force, the Shakti, is the source of matter and the source of energy in all its forms. It's both the source and the all-pervading, all-sustaining, fundamental power of the universe, in which is inherent the imprint of all life forms, which manifest through devolution and which find fulfillment through evolution. Prana is the same as Shakti, but perhaps there is a difference in usage, in the sense that we use the word prana when Shakti is focused specifically. Shakti, specifically applied, tends to be called prana, especially the Shakti that is manifest, cognized, transmitted, and transformed through breath. The specific application, challenging, channeling, and phasing of Shakti, we tend to call prana. Shakti is the universal fact. Prana is the more individualized association of the one life force. Kundalini is Shakti that impels evolution, that uplifts the individual entity by focusing itself within that individual entity and arising up through that individual entity. Shakti, the origin of all life forms, the origin of the manifest universe, containing the imprint of all things within itself, is in its primal state beyond all polarities, and yet manifests fundamentally through the primal polarities. So that Shakti is both male and female. It's an interesting case with Kundalini. Kundalini is depicted in the mythology as female, but in truth, Kundalini is androgynous. The goddess Kundalini is tangibly depicted as the feminine power, coiling, entwining, serpentinata. This entwining, this embracing, this serpentinata movement of Kundalini is very definitely a feminine image. And yet, the serpent, more often than not, is a masculine image, for obvious reasons. And as Kundalini unfolds, Kundalini, which is coiled at the base of the organism, expands and the coils separate. And in the uncoiling process, progressively, the power straightens until the coiled Kundalini becomes the erect serpent. So when Kundalini has fulfilled evolution, it both spans the material, the earth level, and the celestial level, and in the course has manifested both feminine and male characteristics and transcends both. So when we say Goddess Kundalini, we need also to bear in mind the androgynous nature of the one reality to which Kundalini attains and expresses itself as. The Holy Grail. Jung necessarily and very rightly gives alchemical teaching an inner and profoundly symbolic meaning. As far as I'm aware, he has very little to say about alchemical transformation as a physical reality as well as an inner truth, as having a material significance as well as a mystical one. I personally favor the view that because the inner truth is a valid reality, that inner truth must in some way at some stage manifest physically. Such is the ancient law, attributed in fact to the cosmic alchemist, the Egyptian Thoth, as within, so without, as above, so below. So alchemy would seem to mean a total truth, a total fact, not just an inner and symbolic meaning. at this level of profundity, truth must be all-embracing. Truth must be a totality. Truth cannot be fragmented. The word unconscious is very difficult. The word unconscious has been coined, one suspects, because of the practical necessity of finding a term to differentiate between our conscious minds that we are aware of and all the rest, termed unconscious. But the problem here, obviously, is that the unconscious is not unconscious. The unconscious is tremendously alive, active, full of profound meaning, the source of destiny, a predetermining agent of our behavior patterns. And the unconscious contains very, very much that's far from heavenly. It was Freud who talked about the subconscious. But Freud made little or no allowance for what Jung clearly discerned as a spiritual reality vastly removed from and vastly above the level of our conscious functioning. The subconscious is a repository of our instinctive nature and of much that we inherit from the brute past, and is far from holy and certainly far from heavenly. Jung coined the term unconscious to cover the celestial potential, which also has a great part to play in human unfoldment, indeed represents the inner destiny of the planet. The term unconscious, therefore, covers that which is vastly beyond the comprehension, the aspiration, the cognition of our conscious mind, and that which is below it. The unconscious includes both our brute past and our angelic potential. The literature of the Judeo-Christian tradition contains a number of references to bodily assumptions. Elijah was taken up into heaven in a chariot of fire, seemingly, without passing through the usual processes of death. The same is alleged apocryphally of Enoch, a prophet figure given much credence by the Essenes. Jesus is said not to have died, but to have ascended, a bodily assumption. And within our lifetime, the the Roman Catholic Church made a dogma of an ancient tradition that the Virgin Mary did not die, but had a bodily assumption into heaven. Now, in the Christian tradition, the Virgin Mary plays a profound part in the Holy Grail teachings. And the Holy Grail, as we've discussed many times before, is not a Christian invention. It goes back and back into the dim past, back into the earliest known origins of the spiritual aspiration of the human race. The Immaculate Conception is a very interesting teaching. We won't go into it tonight. It's a very interesting teaching. Conceived as possible only through a human being, a female human being, who is a predestined and perfectly evolved vessel for the incarnation of spirit into flesh. Put it this way. That if spirit is descending into substance, if the Sun God is manifesting within the fleshly form, the earth also is part of a single process, part of an evolutionary unfolding that has its pattern throughout untold generations until there comes about a human being, a woman, whom nature has fashioned to be the flower of evolution, the perfect vessel from which a Saviour shall be born. Such a vessel is the Holy Grail. Whatever may be the literal meaning or the symbolic meaning of the bodily assumption tradition, it's very much concerned with the meeting of spirit and substance, the perfection of substance through the embrace of spirit, the manifestation of spirit through the embrace of substance, the fusion of spirit and substance, the coming together of the polarities of the one into the unity that perfects life. That is the inner meaning of the teaching of the Holy Grail. That is the inner meaning of alchemy. And it's a truth working on every level. It's the fullest and richest meaning of the teaching of Kundalini. It is the flower of the incarnation of Shakti into substance. It is the opening out, the yielding up, the fulfilling of life on this planet. Through Kundalini, transmuting into its opposite and transcending all opposites. The rising light, that is the bias of the East. The incarnating light, that is the bias of the West, are equal factors in the evolution of life on Earth. That balance in nature, perfectly expressed in the relationship of the sun and the earth and the solar system of which we are part, perfectly expressed in the cosmic humankind, the Purush, which is the cosmic Christ. That symbol is the macrocosmic image of what life is striving to happen within the individual. The balance of the light within ourselves will come about when we discern the deepest meaning of what it means to open ourselves to the call of life that bids us progressively expand, and to submit ourselves to rest, to lie down in green pastures, to sleep and to be still within the embrace of the all-protecting law of life. To awaken, to affirm, to expand, to assert, to diminish, to contract, to submit, to be no thing, trusting in the protection of the infinite presence, the infinite Shakti that sustains all things, the infinite Spirit whose power moves the universe and can and will uphold the least of us, sustain the least of us, transform the least of us to fulfill that which is yet to be, the immanence within the unconscious that casts aside the limitations of our present state, that sheds the darkness of the outworn past, that illumines all shadows, that opens out the heart to infinite laughter. And the Holy Grail is that instrument that has striven with nature to allow truth to be. And when we allow it, truth shall be.